So what's one last piece of advice that you want to give it to my listeners?
I guess I would definitely say find out your finances. And sometimes where you think you're in a hole, you're really not that far deep and that far away from your dream. And sometimes the naysayers or projecting the people that you're around who may not be as open-minded and as positive-minded as you need to be in order to be successful. So step outside of where you think you are, put everything down on paper. And a lot of times you're not in as bad shape as you may think you are, that you feel like you're paralyzed, that you cannot take the next steps to financial freedom.
This is the Real Estate Vibe Show. I'm your host, Vinki Loomba. As a real estate investor and a fund manager, I'm always excited to explore the real estate world of opportunities with you and for you. Today, we have a very special guest, Chrissy Grigoropoulos, with us. Welcome to the show, Chrissy. Really excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here also.
So a little bit about Chrissy. Chrissy is a founding and managing attorney of the Grigoropoulos Law PLLC. Chris is also a corporate real estate broker and CEO with extensive experience in high-profile criminal defense and personal injury litigation. Today, we have a very special topic. It's going to be from self-doubt to self-empowerment, mindset shifts, and we're going to be exploring how women feel trapped in their unfulfilling lives. They have the power to embark on a transformative journey towards self-empowerment. This topic is really close to my heart. And when Chrissy said she's going to come to my podcast and share this with me, I'm like, wow, I'm so excited, Chrissy, for you. Welcome again. So
Thank you so much.
let's get started with one simple question. Can you please share a bit about your own journey and how you transitioned from self-doubt, if you had any, because you have done multiple things in your life. We were talking about that before the recording. And
Yes.
then your journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment.
Of course, thanks so much. That's such a good question. So I came from immigrant parents. I am Greek. My father and my mother always pushed me to be a strong person, never took excuses with anything. I finished high school when I was 16, college when I was 19. I finished law school when I was 25. And pretty much I was always looking for the next step on how to be independent and really push myself further. Self-doubt, you seem to see it, you feel it as well, but you have to push past it. Anytime someone tries something new, I'm also a real estate broker. When you're starting something new, whether it's investing in a new property or doing a fix and flip or getting a rental property to take care of and help your income and your family's stability, you have to step outside the box, and stepping outside the box makes you feel uncomfortable. So you have to push past that doubt and just be positive and hope for the best and just keep plugging away at it and do your research.
Wow. And you have done so many things in your life, not just law. You said you did real estate and you're mom of two beautiful kids, and one is on the way. I
Yeah.
mean, you're managing so many things, and you got to have that mindset, like can do attitude. So can you share with us, about your journey a little bit more deeper? Like, how did you get this mindset? Like you were always like that, or is it something that you just keep on building?
So I never really was a school person, as they say, someone that loved school and loved to be there and learn. But the ends justify the means. So I definitely pushed through school. Once I realized that there was a path, I took it upon myself. Ironically enough, a lot of people ask, what made you finish school so early? And I really checked out the resources myself. It wasn't something that my parents or someone else thought of for me. I was actually the only one in the whole school that did it. I don't hear about it too often, people graduating early. I have heard it before. So I think if one of my quotes in my book, I'm also an author. I wrote a book. It's called Lady Shark, How to Become a Millionaire in Your 30s, where it helps women and lady sharks alike. You don't necessarily need to be a woman, but someone that's hungry for more. They're maybe stuck in their 9 to 5, or they may want something more than just their paycheck to paycheck, and they're able to broaden their horizon and think of what better ways to communicate either with their boss or find a side hustle to help their family gain stability and look towards the future. So I basically was always a self-starter per se. You know, obviously everyone has their own procrastination methods, he come and go and things of that nature, and tired. But when you have that fire inside, it's really easy to just keep pushing and keep pushing even when you're tired.
Wow, I didn't know about your book. Let's talk about that. Lady Sharks, right? I love the
Yes.
name. So,
Yes.
how did you come about that? What made you write that book?
So I was always the guru of random advice and people basically asking me, how did you do it? How do you do it? Where do you find the time? You know, where do you find the energy and things of that nature? But, you know, a little bit here and a little bit there and your spare time that people may, you know, be out drinking or out partying or something else. If you sacrifice some of that time, even short term, you start building a small business and it grows. And then that could then allow you to leave your normal 9 to 5 job or how to have a dual income now just with one person. So I always wanted to provide that information when I'm asked, and I thought that the book would definitely be a way to share that. And I give a lot of advice, and my advice isn't about becoming an overnight success. It's really about embracing the process of personal growth and gaining financial literacy. And in order to live life to the fullest, everyone has their own definition of what success or being rich or having financial freedom is, but it gives you the motivation to, instead of think, why me in my situation and be down on yourself, but why not you? And push yourself. If someone else can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah, you said it very well. You know, if somebody else can do it, you can do it too. So let me ask you this question. You know, a lot of people, women especially, they feel, oh, they are stuck because the issue, I think, is mainly because their mind is so occupied with the household chores, with their job, maybe primary job they have, with the kids, because women can do multiple things at one time.
Right.
And then they do not have even this little space in their mind to be creative or think something else. I mean, they're already creative. I mean, if you understand that what I'm trying to say
Yes.
is, so, but a lot of time, beside all that being, you know, they feel stuck. They feel like, oh, I'm stuck at this point in my life. I do
Right.
not know how to pass this hurdle. So,
Mhm.
did you experience something like that in your life, or can you help my listeners? You know, how can they recognize the first step? They feel that they're stuck, and then why and how to get out of that. I know it's
Sure,
a
sure. It's actually
question.
a very common question, and a lot of people don't realize in your everyday life there's skills that you use mindlessly. Some women are amazing organizers; they have their house completely organized. My skill is definitely not organization. So, if it's, you know, let's say they're a working mother or a stay-at-home mother that their kids consume their whole life, but they have amazing meal prep skills or organization skills, or they make amazing charcuterie boards or they do great balloon art for the kids' birthday parties. You'd be surprised the vendors that are doing these things, how much they
Mhm.
charge. So a lot of times that you're thinking that, you know, I'm stuck. I don't know where the next step is when you already have it in your hands and you're just not thinking of that opportunity. So a lot in my book, I do talk about opportunity road mapping and basically seeing an opportunity when it's in front of you, or if it's something that you practice on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of times you don't have to invest, let's say, into a business or invest into a real estate property. Sometimes people don't have that money to invest. So
Mhm.
the goal is to really know how much money do you spend on a month, how much money do you make in that same month, and then what things can you do in order to generate a little bit more money to either purchase a business, nurture a business that you can do. You know, like I stated earlier, the perfect examples of not very high cost investing in businesses such as organization, meal prep, charcuterie boarding, ballooning. Those don't need a huge capital investment, and you're able to make money and do it on your own time. Becoming a real estate agent is an amazing way to have a side hustle as well. You can try to, you know, maybe use some vacation time that you're provided through your 9 to 5, maybe to leave a little bit early here and there. And obviously, we can capitalize on weekend time. That's when open houses happen and things like that. And then boom, you get a sale. Of course, getting a sale or rentals, they don't happen as quickly as we'd like when we're first starting out, but having a good mentor and support system, that's another side hustle that you can, you know, definitely be able to nurture and get to be on one of your day-to-day basis of how to make more money.
That's true. And then having a mentor is like always a key. But the thing is, a lot of times you do not have the resources. And I think the first step is the realization that you have a self-doubt, that you're doubting yourself or doubting your abilities. And a lot of times it's missed, right? Because
Right.
people think whatever I'm doing, I'm in the right place, and whatever I'm doing is the right thing. And
Right.
this is my capacity. I cannot go beyond that.
Mhm.
So, what was for you look like, when you realize that your potential is much more than whatever you're doing because you have done multiple things in your life. So
Right.
how you add on to your capabilities or the skill sets?
That's a very good question. I talk about it in my book too. I felt like the underdog a lot in my lifetime throughout with regard to schooling, whether it was in law school. I went to law school in the Midwest. I have East Coast accent, East Coast style. I didn't go to school dressed in a suit the way that some people would in law school, and people would be like, "Who is this girl? And how is she even here? And what is she doing here? And is she gonna fail out?" And all these things, I up to the point that I even was sitting in class and, I had one class that the professor told everyone, okay, pick three people that are around you and make your own law firm so we can start answering questions and basically work together as a group. And the person that, obviously you don't really know anyone when you're first starting a class. So you usually look to your left, look to your right, and choose your group. Well, I look to my right and the girl's like, well, are you even going to work? And I'm like, I was so taken back by the questions, like, well, why wouldn't I? Of course.
Uh-huh.
And, I was offended and I was like upset because it's like, do I look dumb or, but you can't let what naysayers say. You can't allow societal ceilings. My book, I talk about that too, because sometimes people want to look at your outside exterior and they don't see that they can't tell what your IQ is. They can't tell what your history is. They can't tell what your upbringing is or how smart you really are with regard to your drive. And needless to say, I wasn't in that group. I was in a different group. And, obviously you never wish bad upon anyone. But out of the two of us, I went to a law school that 1 out of 3 people fail out. It was very difficult. I didn't know that going into it, but they provided me with a partial scholarship. So I thought that was the best route to go. And needless to say, she didn't make it, and I ended up graduating, thank God. So there's different ways that people that try to project what they're going through maybe upon you, or they just try to judge you, and it'll always be that way. And sometimes you will doubt yourself. You'll be like, how am I going to be, let's say, a millionaire one day? Let's put that random number, on it, the way that I have entitled as my book, because a millionaire doesn't, it could mean you have an asset, sometime in New York, a home more likely than not is worth $1 million. Whether you have it paid off or not is a different story. But you can, if you're able to obtain a home in New York, most likely you're almost a millionaire. So that could be the baseline, or you can go up to 999 million and you're still a millionaire. But if you have that, you're shooting for the stars mentality, you will find a way. And even if it's just collecting pennies, taking, when you pay with cash, take that change, put it aside, and just gather things up in that respect, just with baby steps, you'll get there in order to, take off that stress that you have of the 9 to 5 or feeling like you're living paycheck to paycheck with no bright light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and this is all the conditioning that like you said, you do not know what the person's abilities are or where they came from, what their upbringing is, because this is all the conditioning people have. There's
Yes,
certain patterns that we follow in our life, and we keep on doing the same thing over again. And the other thing is when people are judging you, you
right.
internalize all those feelings. And these feelings become your thoughts, and thoughts becomes your words and actions. We know that whole
Exactly.
nine yard. You're creating your destiny by default without any realization. So
Exactly.
that's why I wanted to emphasize on the realization. The first step is realizing that you're in the self-doubt. So let's talk about that transformative steps, like what steps can we take to get out of that rut and okay, no, I can do it, right? I can see the patterns. So what is the best way for you, or from your experience that you learned, that you started recognizing the patterns? I say, okay, I'm going to break this pattern. No matter how people are looking at me, how they're judging me, that's not me. I'm something else.
Exactly. Well, it's especially based on what you just said. Sometimes you take what the statements are and you internalize them, and then you adopt them, and then you're basically imprisoned by them. But why? You have the two options. You can either take them and internalize them, or say, that is not me. I'm not even going to absorb that negative energy, and I'm going to rise above. I'm going to have a higher vibration than this negativity. Sometimes you can see some people that, even a homeless person that's let's say trying to do more. That's instead of just asking for change, they're washing windows and hoping that you give them a tip. That's someone that's trying to do a little bit better. And who are you to say, oh, well, you'll never be anything in life? Why give back negative energy? And I think that a lot of times when people do give bad, you don't want to give back bad. You want to just say, that's your opinion. It is what it is. And you just keep it moving because it really doesn't matter. People that have something bad to say, obviously, in my experience, I guess maybe it's not so obvious, but in my experience, whenever I encounter, if I'm at a networking event or happen to be in the same place, let's say you're having a broker's open or you're having an open house and you meet another broker that may be in with the higher end firms or more popular firms by accident. So now you're in the same room as someone that you may be able to gain advice from. So instead of thinking about all what bad people say that are not successful or that have nothing to do with you or that don't know anything about where you'd like to go in life, you're in the vicinity and in the opportunity state with someone that you can ask questions and you can say, hey, how are you? I know exactly who you are. Very nice to meet you. How did you get to where you are? I would love to know. Give me some advice. And what I found is that the most successful people that you do encounter, of course, I'm sure that there's a percentage of people that don't fit into what I'm describing, but they're so happy to help and they're usually flattered and they're usually more than happy to give you advice and tell you, listen, it can be you. Why can't it be? If you work hard and you know what you want and you're going to make it so that you have time to do what's necessary in order to become successful, why shouldn't you be that successful person?
That's true. And the other thing is, like you mentioned, comparing yourself with others. That could be negative too, because sometimes, when you are comparing yourself with others, you're just bringing that feeling in you that you're not enough, and which is not the right feeling because
Right.
everybody's a complete being in herself or himself and have the same potential like anybody else. It's just a matter of knowing, being self-aware, or having the right guide or mentor in your life. And then mentor not necessarily need to be like somebody you're paying thousands of dollars. It could be just
Right.
friend, like you said, or
Exactly.
somebody that you admire and just
Right.
ask them something, right? So
Colleague,
did you
friend, family member. It could be anything. I try to make myself open. I tell people my social media. I tell them, listen, send me a message, hit me up. It doesn't have to be something formal. Ask a question. I always try to put myself out there. I have people that I haven't spoken to in 10, 20 years since grade school that ask me free legal advice all the time. And you know what? I definitely just take it, absorb it. And if I can give them an answer or some direction, why not? What does it really cost you? A few moments of your life?
So let's talk about some practical or pragmatic steps as well. So do you do any kind of goal setting? Did you plan your life, or did you just go with the flow and then kind of have like, plan as you go?
So I would definitely a planner, but there's a Greek expression that you plan your things and then God laughs at you. Not really to talk too much about religion, but you can plan. And I always am a planner. My husband's like, oh, let's just go and we'll wing it. And I'm like, no, 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 we can't do that. So we're like opposite in that respect. But I knew I wanted to be a lawyer from a young age. My dad had a pretty bad experience with a rental property that he had. It ended up there was a tenant, an unpaying tenant that ended up leaving. They put a barbecue on the inside of the house, left the propane on, and he had one of his workers looking around the property. He was thinking about renting the property, and my father asked him just to take a look on the outside. He had to go to another property that he had not too far away, and he was going to return and then show him the inside. Well, he was impatient, opened the window, had a cigarette lit, and the whole home blew up. So
My
it was
goodness.
it was very crazy. My dad, who's an immigrant, has a very heavy accent, and he basically was questioned. He had to do a deposition for the insurance policy, logically, after this type of a loss. And I went with him, and I remember, I talk about it in my book about what made me think to even be a lawyer, especially at a young age, which is rare. I'm the most educated in my family, so no one else has graduated from college. My mom had some college, but I'm the most educated with my doctorate in my family. So my dad basically was like, "Oh, this lawyer costs so much money per hour," and I'm like, "Oh, my father had said." Oh, you should be a lawyer. I'm like, oh, well, what do lawyers do? And he said, well, they fight all day and they make a lot of money. I was like, oh, I like to fight all day, and the adolescent response and the immature And I mean, listen, and what I talk about, what I also say in my book is that my dad says now that it was all my idea. He never said any of that, that he just said, this is what lawyers do and blah, blah, blah. But I said, hey, it's my book. I'm going to write it how I remember it. But that's pretty much how I knew. So my plan was to be a lawyer. I wasn't intrigued. My dad always pushed for real estate because he was, he was an investor. He had his own properties, rental properties, and things of that nature. So, of course, he would love someone to do closings and title searches and all that fun stuff. But for me, it was boring for me. I'm like, no, I don't want to. So I always enjoyed criminal, and I finished law school and I did do criminal. But unfortunately, it's sad to say, but if you're working for someone else with criminal, there's definitely a very lower ceiling when it comes to salary. So after doing criminal defense for some time, I'm like, listen, I can't stay at $50,000, $60,000 a year after going to law school when I was making that, in a corporate job before law school. So I switched over to personal injury defense because in my brain and logic, I'm like, if I could keep someone out of jail, I could probably keep someone from spending money on, a different issue. And little by little, I understood more about that end of the business. And I realized that the margins are a little bit grander when it came to plaintiffs' personal injury, when someone's injured in an accident, to represent them and try to gain pain and suffering money on their behalf, that the salaries were greater. So as much as I planned to be this grand personal criminal defense attorney, to be famous, and I did work for the district attorney's office where you put the bad guys in jail. That was awesome, an awesome experience as well. Sometimes there's life gives you the route that you're supposed to be on by accident or on purpose, however people think of the journey in life. But I definitely think planning for success is a necessity. It doesn't happen by accident. You don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm successful. Hard work and time and dedication and sacrifices all are part of the recipe.
And also seeing the opportunities, like you said very well, life
Yes.
sometimes gives you opportunities, but to
Mhm.
see the opportunities, you have to have that space in your mind. You cannot be so occupied,
Right.
or like the situation people call it, like, I am stuck. You're not stuck because you're so carried away with your mind and your thoughts. You're like so
Right.
engrossed, you can't think of anything else.
Right.
So what was that transition like? I don't think it's a complete transition, but you got pivoted to real estate as well. So
Right.
you're a real estate broker, you're doing a bunch of things in real estate too. So having the background in real estate with your dad, so
Right.
that was I think, the key point for you to have some real estate in
Right.
your portfolio. How did that
For
go?
sure, for sure. It's definitely helpful because it comes like second nature. And I always say my father, with his fifth grade education, will always be smarter than I am, with no matter how many doctorates I have. Because the street smart is really something that's an
It is.
asset that, I have through my upbringing. I wasn't raised in the streets, per se, but you have to be smart enough to realize when something's a hoax. Not everything that looks beautiful and shiny is really gold and diamonds. It could be something very bad or a bad investment, and something that looks like gross and like an investment property that, let's say, everybody else passes by and says, no, this is a waste of money. There's no margins here. You're never going to make money, and sometimes you have to say, you know what, well, what if I do this or what if I do that? I can give you an example. When my first daughter was in only a few months old, we saw an investment property in Long Island, and it was a very small home. It was a two-bedroom, one-bathroom home, no basement, no attic. And basically, we ended up converting it to a three-bedroom, two full bathroom home. And, we made a little over 100 grand on it. So, I mean, you're not going to become rich with one deal, but you know what? To have less than a year margin of $100,000 for a side hustle is not too bad. So there's definitely opportunities. But that house sat on the market for a long time because it was a two-bedroom, one-bathroom, very disheveled, very old home that people didn't see how there could be an opportunity. And I said, listen, why don't we try it? And it happened to be fruitful. It's good to be able to work on it yourself, have a couple let's say laborers come and help you out and do the certain things. And obviously utilizing my dad's resources when it came to his prior construction companies, and knowing where to get the proper technicians and blue collar workers to get done what needs to get replaced and done on the home in order to be able to list it back on the market and get that, profit from it. So definitely real estate is helpful as a background. It's crazy. I feel like nowadays there's so many good resources when it comes to real estate, where to buy, even like Zillow and those types of websites. They provide so much more insight as far as their value versus the value of the home when it's being sold. These things never existed, prior. Chat GPT, I feel like you can ask it even some questions to help you go on the process. AI is like insane. But of course, having a mentor, having someone that is open-hearted, open-minded, and helpful is definitely gives you the step forward that you might need.
So one thing I really like what you said in the last examples that you're giving about your real estate journey, you said, you use your dad's resources. So being resourceful is the key.
Oh,
Basically, you
sure.
connecting the dots, having those resources
Sure.
under your belt. You do not need to know everything.
Right.
And for the women, I think this is the first thing. I'm gonna compare a little bit here, men and women, because men, they know 10%, they're gonna run with it. They're gonna say, I'm gonna figure it out, I'm gonna do it. Women will know 90%. 90% of the time, they'll know 90%, but they'll say, I do not know the 10%. I
Right.
need to know that 10% too before I jump in.
100%. Yep.
So this is like, I would say, fear of taking risk and women. So what advice do you have for women? How
You
to get
have to
over?
take risk. And the question, it's funny that with what you're talking about right now, it really brings me to something that I've been asked more than once. Why do men, statistically make more money than women when it's the same job? And as a business owner for my own law firm, we have 3 offices now. I can answer that. And it's really ironic. And maybe the answer many people won't like, but when a man goes into an interview and they're asked certain questions, can you do this? Can you do that? How much money you'd like, etc. They lie. They say, yes, sure, I can do that. I can do this. Whereas a woman, more times than not, of course, I can't speak on 100% of the time. Women will say, I don't know how to do that. I can learn and I will do it. And then they'll sacrifice getting paid less in order to quote unquote learn, whereas a man will lie. So the standard of men getting paid more than women isn't based off of, the sexual orientation and the body parts. It's really based off of the projection of how you're selling yourself and how confident you are. And I talk about it in my book as well. It's a double-edged sword. I say you fake it till you make it authentically. So you have to believe in yourself, because myself, when I was in law school, I would look at the professors and be like, wow, they're lawyers. They're so smart. They're older. And then when you get in practice and you're hired by an attorney that's literally coming into your office as a new associate and saying, I don't know what to do, find the case law. Can you figure it out? Let's figure it out together. And some of them won't say that. They'll say, well, I know, but I won't tell you. You figure it out. So it depends on the boss that you get. But it's really, no one knows what they're doing. No one's going to know 100%. My father, who's been an investor and been in real estate for, I don't know, 30 years, even he has certain experiences. I remember I had a couple gentlemen sit in my law office. They were Greek and they liked my last name and they were convinced that I was from the same village in Greece as they were. And I was in court and one of my paralegals, they're like, listen, these guys are here. I don't know what they're talking about, because she didn't speak Greek. So I said, okay, no problem. Long story short, they start telling me that their home is being the building that they own is being sold on the stock market. I literally had no idea what they were talking about. I'm like, what do you mean stock? How is that even possible? So I get the address, I type it in my favorite website ever, Google, and then I call my father because I'm like, Dad, I don't know what they're talking about, but they want me to help them not lose their house or their property in the stock market. And he was like, stay right there, I come right now, And basically, there was nothing about the stock market. It was nothing. So even my dad had no idea. But when you ask more questions and you get into the what you're going through, whether it's real estate, whether it's law, whether it's having your own business, doing anything, you ask more questions, you investigate more, and then you phone a friend. Who that friend is, whether it's Google or an actual person, is a whole different story, but you have to work through it. And being candid with your client or who you're dealing with is really the key. Sometimes I tell my clients, I don't take only slam dunk cases. I'll take cases that other lawyers either rejected, took, and then said, this is too hard, never mind, and then dropped them as a client. And then they come to me. And I'll be very candid. I'll say, listen, this is not an easy case. Of course, we'll try for you. We're, do what you have to do. I hope that you feel better going to your doctors, and let us do the other part. There's no promises. And they'll say, thank you so much that, you are trying something that someone else didn't. Whether it's with personal injury and someone that's hurt, whether it's a real estate transaction, someone's home that's going into foreclosure, you learn. So I feel like the women that want to know 100%, no one ever knows 100%. Men, women, animals, the president, and no one knows 100% of anything. And if they're telling you that they do, it's a lie. Even, I've been in practice, I guess almost 10 years now, or just about 10 years, and I don't know everything. I've seen thousands of cases. I've done, many, many different problem solving situations, but you've never seen it all and you've never been through it all. So you could never say I'm 100% expert. You can be an expert based on what your experience is, but there's no one that's 100%. So if you're someone that you feel like you're stuck in your situation, whether it's staying at home or a 9 to 5 or a part-time job and that you hate, but it's stable and you don't want to leave, you will never know 100%, and there will be a better opportunity out there, but you have to kind of make that risk. If you don't risk, you won't get anywhere. If you don't leave sometimes some money on the table to believe in yourself and take the next step, then it won't happen for you.
Yeah, I like that approach. Just do it approach. Just do it, just try it, right? Basically, and
Right.
that's gonna get you where you want. And not necessarily gonna be 100% at everything, but there might be some field in your life that you're 100% in that. So recognize that and see if you can do that, it could be 100%, or you can ace that, you can ace anything else too. So let me ask you this question. You do so many things. I'm super amazed to have you with me, first of all,
Oh,
and
thank you.
hearing your story. I wanted to hear from you. How are you balancing your personal life, your professional life, your financial life? Because you have multiple things.
Right.
You're real estate, your law, your personal injury lawyer, corporate lawyer. You're doing multiple things and being a mom as well and a
Right.
wife. How you balance all that?
So I invested basically, let's say 20 to almost 18 to 20 hours of my life before finding my husband, thankfully. And I had no life. And my whole life was put into my baby, my first baby, which is my business.
Mhm.
My law firm when I speak of my business. So I feel like I spent almost, let's say my daughter's going to be 3 in September. So about 8 years of my life, basically giving almost 100% of myself into my business. So I'm able to juggle and have a little bit more leeway now. I think relinquishing control is one of the hardest things that a business owner can do when it comes to having the right team with you that can take on things that they're able to do. There'll always be some things that I have to do or that I really want to do. Maybe not have to, but it being my first baby, you want to be hands-on with. But time management is definitely important. I still work a lot. I'm very thankful to have a husband that works closer to home. He's in finance, so he's able to be home, before 6 o'clock, where, our babysitter is able to go home. But the resources, I always wanted children when I was in my early 20s, and I was always sad that I didn't have, the right spouse, or the right opportunity to have kids because I wasn't married. I didn't find my person until later in life. And I'm 35 now, and I waited a long time, but it's funny because you look in retrospect and hindsight's always 2020. And I would have never been able to have the household that I have now and the help that I have with my babysitter at home, someone that I trust. Good help in that respect is very expensive. And I think that the ability that I have worked as hard as I have for this amount of years and invested that much time, it enables me to be able to leave at 6 o'clock, maybe 5 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock on some days. Some days come in at 11 or 12. Whereas, before I had my family, I was here at the office from 8 till 2 in the morning, more times than not. So it's really what you invest. And I remember when I first had my business, of course, I was young. I was in my, I guess, late 20s when I started my own business, mid 20s, mid to late 20s. And I had so many friends saying, come on, let's go away. Let's go here. Let's go out. The work will be there tomorrow. And I just felt the weight on my chest that, these clients needed me. My business was not where I wanted it to be. And with personal injury, I'm not sure how much all the listeners know, but you don't make money until you close a case. So you're working for free until that case is resolved. So there's no billable hours. So you really want to put in that time and and that effort to then build. So now after building that business, after the 5 year mark is really when it explodes and you're able to then say, okay, we made it, everything is good, the settlements are coming in, and you're able to hire the help that you need in order to have that freedom of time to nurture your family and really spend time, because time is all we really have. Obviously, we want to work, we want to all make money and have the free mental to have all of our bills paid. And when you go on vacation, you're not in debt every time. Or let's say you take a few days off of work, you're not, dying to try to play catch up. That's what everyone wants. So you have to invest. It doesn't just happen overnight unless you're inheriting some amazing amount, which I wasn't, privy to, but you have to invest. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, but it will come.
Yeah, well said. It's a trade-off. I learned that very early on. My mom used to tell me all the time when I was younger. She's like, life is a trade-off. If you work hard early years, you're gonna enjoy your life rest of the years that you have. And if you just wanted to just waste your time, go out, have fun right now, you're gonna be working till the end.
Right.
So it's a trade-off basically. So what's one last piece of advice that you want to give it to my listeners?
I guess I would definitely say find out your finances. And sometimes where you think you're in a hole, you're really not that far deep and that far away from your dream. And sometimes the naysayers or projecting the people that you're around who may not be as open-minded and as positive-minded as you need to be in order to be successful. So step outside of where you think you are, put everything down on paper. And a lot of times you're not in as bad shape as you may think you are, that you feel like you're paralyzed, that you cannot take the next steps to financial freedom.
I like that. Don't overthink, because a lot of time we are overthinking. No reason to do that. So this brings us to our why rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You're going to answer in one word or one sentence only. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So the first question is, what is one of the most important things that you have learned in your life, and how did your life change after learning it?
Patience and trust, making sure to be patient and being very weary of who you trust. Those two things I think are really the goal in life. You have to be patient. I'm very impatient. I want things now. I want it right away. And trusting the wrong people can really hurt you, and trusting the right people can really help you.
Thank you for that. I like that answer. Share one good book beside yours that you like and recommend to my audience.
The Millionaire Next Door, I think, is a really good book. I think that it tells you that you don't know who a millionaire is, and they don't have the fancy watch, and they don't have to have the $1 million job, and they are a millionaire. And it gives you advice aside from the advice that you can get through my book that shows that you're not far off. You're not as far off as where you would like to be.
I like that. You're not that far off. People need to realize that, including me.
Mhm.
In one word, what does life mean to you?
Family. I think family would
What?
be my one word, I guess. Family, I think that, of course, we want to have a stable career and stable income in order to nurture that. But I think for myself and the way that I was raised, without my children and without a husband, to have that family unit, there's no such thing as real happiness.
Thank you. What is your biggest passion?
Biggest passion. Oh, that's rough. That one's hard. I have two. Obviously, being a mommy and being someone that's positive. That's the light when you enter the room, whether you're having a bad day or not. You have to just be thankful that you have that extra day and that you're better off than others.
If you could turn back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself and why?
I would definitely tell myself that the struggle is going to be worth it, that sometimes being lonely and being hard on yourself, it's just a waste of time. You're throwing negativity on yourself, and a lot of people, they're hard on themselves, including me. So I would just tell myself, give yourself some grace, give yourself a minute. Everything is going to be okay. I guess the key words is that everything's going to be okay.
And give yourself some grace. Oh my God, I love that. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Chrissy.
Thank you so much
I
for
love
having me. I
this
really enjoyed
interview.
your show.
So can you share how people can reach out to you?
Of course. So my website is The Lady Shark. And basically, you can go on there. I talk about places that I'm speaking, where the book is, a lot of the media exposure, as well as my Instagram is Chrissy G Official. If anyone's, a lot of times I try to give it to more lay people so they can have the outreach that they want. Shoot me a DM or a message, and I'll be more than happy to help with any advice.
Thank you so much, Chrissy, for being on my show. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you
it.
so much for having me.